Jesus, that scared the hell out of me. Folks, yes, we're going to be, you're welcome to a new episode of a new show within a show. You are listening to Tavern Chat, but it isn't Tavern Chat. Well, it is, but it isn't. It was going to be talking shit with Erik and Mike, but now it's talking crit, where we talk shit with Erik and Mike.
Yes,
Obviously,
due to the genius of Carl Heil, our buddy, who said this fact this isn't called talking crit as a crime. Erik and I both looked at each other metaphorically over the internet and said, "You are correct. This needs to be called talking crit. That's too good a name."
So now we are talking crit, where we talk shit. So we briefly discussed some ideas to talk about before we activated our Craigbot for the recording, Mike. Which one do you want to touch on first?
Well, first of all, did we decide that it is going to be talking shit on talking crit, or
no? It's going to be Erik and Mike, or Mike and Erik, whichever we wanted to. Erik and Mike talking crit, and then the sub, and that's what it's going to be. I guess we don't get like censored too. And then it's basically us talking shit on talking crit.
So we're going to be So what we'll do is every week is this came about because Erik and I will get on Discord and talk for like 2 hours about nothing. And whoa, we just talked 2 hours. We could have had a show about that. That's ridiculous. Why are we wasting valuable brain cells doing this when we could have a show?
And right, so we can't call it Seinfeld. It's the other show that was
talking about nothing. Yeah.
Right.
But what we'll do is we'll discuss events in the OSR and just our take on them, and it's just going to be really laid back and just we won't get too controversial, I don't think, but we could. I mean, we will we'll speak our mind.
That's a scary thought, ain't it?
We're not fully bought and paid for yet. Not when we are fully bought and paid for, then we will talk about bunnies and rabbits and things like that. But until then,
or bunnies and burrows, we could talk about that too.
Yeah, we could. That would fit in.
Yeah. Well, all right. So again, I'm tossing the ball in your direction, Mike. Which door do we want to open up first? Which rabbit hole?
Well, I'll tell you what. The one thing we talked about the last 2 days on the Frog God chat and on your chat was the fact that WotC seems to be putting a little teeth in their protecting their trademarks.
Yeah, and if you don't know what we're talking about, Fail Squad Games had a Kickstarter up, which directly referenced the Frank Metzner Red Box from 1983. And basically builds upon not necessarily an adventure within, but a theoretical adventure that's spoken of within. It didn't really exist, except for a throwaway paragraph or two in the GM section of the basic set.
But it was copyrighted material, and it this was a clear breach of what WotC has let people get away with for years, which is obliquely referencing D&D icons, but not exactly referencing them.
Right, and this whole Borgle Bargle and how his name may have been misspelled for the last 30 years. Or 35 years, I guess. I think personally, well, even Lloyd will say he kind of knew he might have been poking the bear on this one.
Yeah, I think the main concern of people that were listening to us is this going to be a broad? I mean, is this the first broadside in something Hasbro / WotC is going to do to people in the OSR? And I think our topic of discussion and our findings were that no, you just can't get ridiculous. They've been pretty consistent in the past about what they will and won't allow.
Which is true. However, my concern is this. Lloyd also happened to point out to them that 270 or so some odd Kickstarter projects directly reference D&D, which is a no-no if you're using the OGL, in their advertising, in their title, in their subtitle, in their elevator pitch on the page. So, he kind of, said, well, looking at me, but look at everybody else. And I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, I
Potentially.
mean, to a point. So the little history on this. So that there's been shutdowns before. Several years ago, module Insidious was written, and it was actually, it has a nice, easily cover if you find it. That it's still in print. However, the first edition said across, or the first print said across the cover, first edition Dungeons and Dragons, or first edition AD&D, which was clearly not allowed. They tried it. They took a shot.
Elders, somebody's at the door. I'm not worried
Well,
about.
I guess your dog is feeling better now.
Oh yeah. She's no longer puking. She's just barking. But I think part of the issue there too was the trade dress.
Yeah, the trade dress also, and the fact that they said first edition the AD&D, and so that they gave them a cease and desist, and that was clearly over the line, and up. I mean, I can't think of since then a lot of people who have been giving C&Ds, or at least publicly. You have to really cross that line of using what they consider copyrighted material. I mean, if you put a mind flayer in your module, you're going to get one. Or if you mention, Alana the Cleric, you're going to get one.
Well, actually, not necessarily.
Well, maybe not, but I'm just saying is that's close enough to where they're not going to allow you to run with that.
And I think the part of the issue here too is that listen, if this was something that somebody was putting out in a Zine, it was low key, fine. But I'm still entertained by Lloyd saying that, well, when he advertised it, he may have inadvertently used Dungeons and Dragons as the actual advertising for this. It was kind of like, hey, let's go fishing, and I'm gonna be my own bait. It was.
Well, I mean, look who we're talking about today. We're talking about Lloyd and Fail Squad Games. So if he wanted to punch up his name, he sure did. I mean, it worked.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Fail Squad. Lloyd does some great projects on Kickstarter. He has some excellent releases. His art is amazing, and he's that rarity. He's a strong artist and he's a strong storyteller. So he's somebody who has, when he writes an adventure, he has the vision from both sides, which is a real pleasure to see.
And he'll also tell you too that he learned. He's still learning. So I always like that. I don't like people that roll in there and say, "Hey, I figured it all out. Here it is. Boom." Lloyd will tell you, he's still learning art. He's still learning how to write.
Yeah, but he's good and he's solid. I just, I worry, when. So I mentioned this, and somebody said, "Well, I said there's a gray area," and somebody said, "Oh, there's no gray area; it's black and white." Well, yeah, there is a gray area because Wizards of the Coast has allowed a gray area to exist, but they don't have to. And something like this, drawing attention to what has historically been a gray area, and going from the gray to the black, that gray area might suddenly shrink.
Well, they've had an unspoken deal with OSR and indie publishers for a while. Just don't cross this line. You're okay. You can kind of scoot your foot over, a little fee. You can. It's like the subway. You can. They get that line there. You don't want to walk too far over. You're going to fall and get run over. But you can kind of scoot your foot here and there and jostle a little bit. You can get right on the edge. Something that now just related to something I did last year. We published a module for NTRPGCon called Caves of the Unknown, which was B 2.5, which is a sequel to Keep on the Borderlands. However, one thing we did not do was mention Keep on the Borderlands. We did not mention B2. We did not mention any proper names that came from that module. We did not mention World of Greyhawk. We did not mention anything, but it was understood with the nomenclature of B 2.5 and the fact it was called Caves of the Unknown, which is on the map of the B2 Keep on the Borderlands, that's what we're referring to. But we didn't stick it in your face. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I did that purposely. I don't want to poke the bear, for something like that.
No, poking the bear for no reason. Now, again, I think that the poking of the bear in this case, if if Wizards of the Coast didn't respond, Lloyd would have had a well-supported adventure out because it was getting views because of what it was linked to. And with the takedown on Kickstarter, which, by the way, when you read the legal wording of what was submitted by Wizards of the Coast, this was an advanced Dungeons and Dragons basic box set adventure. I was like, but yeah,
Well,
I guess,
don't you think that has something to do with it too? That it was offered on Kickstarter. I mean,
yeah,
maybe if Lloyd had offered it privately, or just somebody named Joe Blow had published it for a convention, they probably wouldn't have cared. But they have to really be protective of stuff on Kickstarter, because that Kickstarter is a when you put something on Kickstarter, and you and I have both dealt with charlatans like Witless and stuff. You have to that's your product out there, and I know a lot of people feel bad for Jolly Blackburn, because his Knights of the Dinner Table was spoiled by having Witless do a terrible Kickstarter of it, and even though Jolly had nothing to do with that and how it turned out, he's still damned by association. Well, the same with Wizards of the Coast. They can't allow things out there, that they don't know that Lloyd doesn't have a basement in there with with rabbit porn or something. I mean, they don't know, or whatever.
Rabbit porn. Wait, is this how we're going to segue into bunnies and burrows?
Yes, this is going to be a bunnies and burrows segue. So see how expertly I set that up. But they don't know what's in Lloyd's module. They can't have him mentioning D&D and then, oh, by the way, you had rabbit porn in the. What do you think about rabbit porn? Oh, we didn't know there's rabbit porn there. So no, they have to be protective of their name.
But yeah, and not only that, not protect the name, they have to protect their own IP. If you don't protect your work, you can lose it.
And I'll tell you that this is having an effect, because I've seen a lot of Facebook posts about, hey, I was thinking about doing blank, and now I'm worried about it. And I actually had somebody that I won't say the name, but they contacted me and said, look, I'm writing something. I have this, and this in there, and they were actually locations taken from basic D&D. And I said, you know what? I wouldn't put those in there. I would change the name of those, because they wanted to base their adventure in the World of Mystara, and they used 3 proper names. I said, my personal opinion, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I would change the names. I don't, at this point, I think that they're looking for people, and yes, you're using proper names. You can't do that.
Well, yeah, and the bear is definitely awakened at this point. And it's funny when you mention somebody using Mystara years ago. I don't know. I don't remember how long. It's before I retired, so it's like 4 or 5 years ago. There was a writer. She was writing this world that she claimed that it was all her own. It was all her own IP.
Oh, I remember that.
And you remember this one, right? In every location.
I remember it. Yes, I remember this.
Oh, and she's like, "Oh, well, I thought of this myself." You couldn't think you thought of it yourself when every name is an exact replication of another, of Wizards of the Coast, and of course there were people like, well, it's no big deal, it's fan fiction. It's like, no, she's publishing it on Amazon.
Oh, I remember all the excuses for that. Yeah, well, she's from Australia. They don't have the same laws there, and she could, it's fanfic. Yeah, you still have to, maintain a basic separation from the subject. You can't say, I mean, you can write fanfic all you want. You just can't publish it on Amazon.
Right. Once you publish it on Amazon, now it's a commercial work, and commercial work has a different level of oh shit when you start doing crap like that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's an interesting little brouhaha. It's but I don't know if there's any wider implications. I think OSR is just fine. I don't. I don't see anything. People just need to be careful, because there's just things you can't do. And usually if that little voice in your head tells you that, this might be a little too much, it probably is.
Yeah. If the thought in your head is, you know what, this might be crossing the line, and then you still do it.
Yeah, the thought in your head is, Morden, maybe I shouldn't call this guy Morden Kanan. That's probably a good idea not to do it.
Yeah, because why get to that point? And if you look at it, when you look at the OGL and therefore the SRD, when you see the spells that were named, Tensor's floating disk is now just what, floating disk, right? It doesn't. All those proper names were dropped.
And they were very clear about that you can no longer use those the names that they have that they control. So but people, that hasn't stopped anybody from having spells called floating disc or having
You can
instead of Big B's clenching fist, you have clenching fist. I mean, that's right. that's just very cosmetic, but they've been very clear that you cannot use those names.
Yeah. So again, to me, this was a pointless poking of the bear, because you don't want the bear to wake up. Let the bear sleep.
But we're talking about Lloyd right now, so if that's what he wanted to do, it worked.
That's true.
That translates into sales. I have no clue. So
that is true, and like I said, I think there was certainly that first day. I was earlier this week. What was it, Monday? When I hopped up on Monday, I know my initial reaction was, "Whoa, this is bullshit. What the hell?" And then I started reading further and even reading Lloyd's further comments, and I went, "Oh, Lloyd actually knew what he was in for."
And what sucks is that Lloyd should have done this during GaryCon, because then we would all had something to talk about and go nuts about at GaryCon, and we could have got everybody's opinion on it, and that would have been awesome. But no, Lloyd had to wait till after GaryCon. Damn it!
Yeah, and actually, here's the other thing too. It was funding very well, for Lloyd. We're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it met its goal very quickly, and it was funding well. And if this was one of those Kickstarters that wasn't going to fund, I don't think that you would have heard anything from Wizards. Why waste your paralegal's time, to pull a project that isn't even going to make it to market? But
and interestingly enough, we were both at GaryCon, and I don't think anybody really I mean, I can't remember how long ago this project opened, but it was during GaryCon, and I don't remember anybody really mentioning, boy, Lloyd's really doing something crazy here.
No, I didn't see that either. So I don't know. Interesting times.
Speaking of GaryCon, you got any? We just both got back from GaryCon. It's been a week. You got any impressions or any thoughts about that since we've been sitting at home for a week now?
Yes, I think that the Anger Brigade should do another boycott of GaryCon next year, since it's our 30% increase this year in attendance. Another 30%, we might have to find a new venue.
Please boycott NTRPG Con. Please boycott it, because we would love a 30% increase. So the boycott, whatever that was just that was a joke. That I talked to Luke, and that had zero effect on anything. So yes, keep boycotting conventions, please.
Please do. Well, I mean, and a joke before I got there, somebody's like, "Oh, do you expect a picket line outside outside of the Grand Geneva?"
Yeah, 9-degree weather, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and 90. I was like, I was hoping to see like 2 or 3 angry people out there. Can we come in to use the bathroom? No, you picket in the place.
Nobody is traveling to godforsaken Lake Geneva to do anything. It was all internet bravado, go crazy. Nobody was actually going to go to any of these places and do anything, because it's not close to an airport. Nobody lives around there. I mean, it's my whole thing is, look, if you want to have wrong bad fun, go have wrong bad fun. I'm not going to bother you about it. So if I want to have wrong bad fun, let me have wrong bad fun. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just just do your own thing. Do your own thing, and I'll do my own thing, and we'll play. I'll use ascending armor class, you use descending, and we won't bother each other.
Well, what I find the most amusing is that the individuals calling for the boycott have been very quiet after that boycott was a total failure. It's not like
nothing. Yeah, there's nothing. There's crickets everywhere.
Because that was all an attempt to show influence and power, and what it really showed was the lack of influence and power.
Part of the issue is, you and I went to GaryCon. Would you consider that a pretty diverse audience there? I did. I consider it
I
incredibly diverse.
certainly did. Every game I ran had at least two women at the table. I ran 3 sessions. Um, I mean, I met. If you look at the customer base, like when I was working the table, I would say at GaryCon, anywhere between 30 and 40% of your congoers were women. A lot of this was families. It was couples. It was kids.
Well, it's not even just women too. I mean, Wisconsin's the whitest place on earth. It's like 17%
Oh God,
minority, and there
yeah.
was tons of POC there. I mean, I mean, not tons, but there were definitely, I definitely saw enough of them to say, well, that's pretty cool that there's that many people of color here, because this is a white. Wisconsin's white, man. It is. It's really
Yeah.
white.
Yeah.
For example, Texas is 51%. We're a minority majority state. I think I want to say Wisconsin's 17%. So for me, it's noticeable when I go there how white it is, because I'm surrounded by POC everywhere. I mean, my neighbors.
Right.
I have African neighbors. I have Indian neighbors. I have but for there, I mean, for a convention there in Lake Geneva, it was pretty diverse. I was actually really surprised, because
Yeah.
you actually have to travel. You have to travel to get
Yes.
it.
Well, not just travel. You have to travel from the airport to get there. It's not like
Oh,
you're
geez,
going to
yeah.
Game Hole, where you hop on the hotel shuttle, or you take a cab ride for 10 minutes, and it's not like going to North Texas, where again, hotel shuttle or cab ride closer to 20 minutes, um, 15 to 20. Instead, you've got an hour drive.
Yeah, and I went to SnowCon in Maine in January, and it was colder here. It was colder in Lake Geneva in March than it was in Maine in January. So you got to really want to go. It's not an easy trip. Like you said, you have to fly to Milwaukee, and then you got a long drive ahead of you. Most conventions are much more convenient than that, but that just shows how popular it is that this many people showed up to a place that sells out. This year, sold out in 5 hours, 2 hours?
Oh, the rooms.
Yeah, they sold out within a couple
They
hours.
they sold, they sold out within a couple of hours. It was 5 hours or less. I mean,
So,
and I think that was including the attached water park too.
yep, that was the whole property. If you want to go to GaryCon next year, you're looking to say somewhere in the city and have to, which is not bad. I mean, it's very close. Everything is really close. You could probably take a shuttle there, or if you rented a car, you could easily get there. But yeah, it just shows you how amazing that this convention, and pretty much in the middle of nowhere, fills up that quickly and has that many people there that they are they're at capacity right now.
Yeah, and actually, what the suggestion I saw from somebody was get a room in town in Lake Geneva, secure it now, but then start calling the hotel in February and get on the standby list.
And
Because
that's a secret of Congoers, because people always cancel. And the thing is, the way they have reservations now, you can cancel up to like a week before. So just keep in there and just keep going. And people cancel all during the year because things come up. They don't have enough money. And there's usually a lot of cancellations right before the convention, because that's when people have to cancel, or their credit card gets charged. So that there's still a chance you can get a room there. I know this year, a couple of people have posted on Facebook about 2 weeks before that they wanted to get rid of their room. If somebody wanted their room, they were going to switch the reservation to them.
yeah, so I mean that's always an option. It's not a bad option either.
But I mean, it was. I talked to Luke after the con. He said that they do have a cutoff point. He didn't tell me the point. I'm going to throw this out there and guess it's 3,000. Because I think they had 2,800 this year. It's either 3,000 or 3,500.
I think they surpassed. I thought they surpassed 3,000
No.
this year.
I talked to Luke.
No.
He said I think he told me 28. But they're right on that edge of 3,000. I don't think he wants to get a lot bigger than that, because I don't think the venue can hold a lot more than that. So I'm thinking that their cutoff's 3 to 3,500, right in that range.
Yeah, and because you go beyond that, you'd have to go to Milwaukee.
Yeah, and Luke made it clear to me they're not going to Milwaukee, or at least any time within maybe in the far future, but not anywhere in the near future. That they want to keep it there. The whole point of GaryCon is that it's a celebration of Gary Gygax and his life, and it's just so cool being in that city and being able to drive by the horticultural hall where they've had the first Gen Con, to Gary's house, to the the memorial in the park, to the old TSR headquarters. I mean, that's part of the whole deal, is seeing all that stuff.
And
if you're in Milwaukee, you can't, you're not gonna. I mean, you have to take a giant trip to see that stuff, because that's not close to Milwaukee.
True. Although the advantage is you don't have to take an Uber or rent a car to get out there.
True.
Because you're driving from Texas anyway, so you're driving no matter what.
Yeah, I'm an idiot though.
Yeah, but we love you anyway.
I know. I mean, that's a 2-day drive. Although I know my buddy Ben Burns made it in one day. He's insane. But and Doug last year, he drove up there for a game with Jim Ward, and took a bunch of people with him, and they did it in one day. And that's nuts, because it's like 15. It's a 15-hour drive. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's.
We break it up every year. Zach and I go up there, and we. Although Zach has told me that we may be flying next year because of the way that TotalCon, because GaryCon is going to be so late next year, and GaryCon is actually at the end of March next year, I believe.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That change of dates for GaryCon, Rach and I this year were like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do TotalCon and GaryCon next year, because they're having it on just one weekend in between the cons. It's rough when you got pets. You have to have watch for an extended period of time.
Oh, sure, yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's a lot to ask for people. Over the next 2.5 weeks, we need you for nearly 2 of them. So we were like, well, if we I asked Rach, because listen, to be honest, who makes the decisions in the end? Rach. I was like, what will we do? And she's like, well, as much as she's like, I love GaryCon. She gets to do spa time and all that stuff, and I love the atmosphere. She goes, but TotalCon we can drive to. And she goes, if it came down to that, I'd say we'd probably have to choose TotalCon. And then they announced the new dates for GaryCon, and she's like, we're doing both next year. I'm like, woohoo!
Well, I think I'm gonna hit TotalCon this next year, because y'all had such a great time this year.
Oh, awesome.
But what we may do is just travel from TotalCon to GaryCon, because just it's going to be pretty much almost back to back. So I don't know. We'll just have to see what the future holds. But our convention is crazy.
It's not back to back though. It's got 4 weeks in between next year.
Whoa, it does? Oh, in that case,
I know.
Wait, are you sure? That case, we're home free then.
You got 4 weeks between, or 5. TotalCon is second to last weekend, I think, in February. It could be the last one. And Gary's at the end. All I know is that when we saw it was at least 4 weeks between the two, we knew we were doing both.
Yeah, it says GaryCon is March 26th to 29th, so that's even like next week. That's way past what it was. So
yes.
If TotalCon's earlier, then we don't have a problem. Yeah. There's no problem at all.
TotalCon is in February, so you have a month. I forget the exact days for TotalCon next year.
My Google foo is failing me. Maybe one of our awesome listeners can post when TotalCon is. But yeah, if it's a month, then we're gold. Now you went to TotalCon and GaryCon. Can you what were the impressions of both of them compared? I mean,
TotalCon is certainly more board gamer, atmosphere. Rachel put it this way: TotalCon was probably damn close to 50% female attendance, maybe like 40-45%. You really, there were alternative lifestyles there, because you're picking people up from like Boston and New York City, people of color, but the atmosphere was so relaxed and friendly. You did not. I love GaryCon, but there's a certain energy at GaryCon that everybody's like moving, like you going through the hallways and you're like ducking people sometimes to get out of the doors in the vending room. And TotalCon was just so relaxed, and you didn't have that. It was a pleasure.
I'll be there next year, so I'll get to experience
there you go. So
firsthand.
February 21st or 24th. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you, Monkey Bloods.
Thanks for our awesome listeners there to let us know. But yeah, that's great. I will definitely be there. I just kept seeing pictures on Facebook of TotalCon, and it was all kinds of people that I am already friends with and already like. So I was like, man, that looks like they're having the best time, and I felt bad about not going at that point.
Well, yeah, and Stefan Pokorny took an Uber up from Brooklyn.
Oh my! I took an Uber. It was great. Oh my god!
Are you recording this?
Probably he charged me $5,000. I love Stefan, man. Stefan's a character in a trip, and if you go to a convention with him there, you are doing yourself a disservice if you don't sit down and talk to him for a while, because he is an amazing dude.
Yeah.
And he will be at North Texas too, and he'll have his own boardroom. We always give him his own little room so he can do his own little creations, and he always has a party at night where he plays his Black Sabbath heavy metal music as loud as it can go, like he did at GaryCon, but instead of GaryCon, it's in the lobby where you can't get away from it. So that's why we gave him his own private room at North Texas, so he doesn't have to rock the whole hotel.
Well, at Gamehole, they gave him the what do you call that? The office room, the glass office where you can print out your airline boarding pass.
He bought the lobby for Saturday night, or was it Friday or Saturday? He bought it. Yes, really? He paid Luke for it to be able to go there and get his speaker cranked up and play Black Sabbath. And so he would, so if anybody complained about it, it was like, look, Stefan has the room. I mean, he bought the room.
That is amazing.
That's kind of genius on Luke's part too. I mean, you could just like, oh yeah, I have to look into that, like selling our lobby. Like, okay, who wants to buy the lobby? And then just say, okay, okay, that's $1,000. Thanks, you got the lobby tonight.
Only problem is, I think at the North Texas hotel, the lobby A isn't that big, and you're getting actual like other people besides congoers in the lobby.
Yeah, we do not. We don't fill up the hotel yet. No, we have airline pilots, and it's actually one of the official hotels for. I think it's American Airlines for the flight attendants and pilots. So yes, I don't think they want to be woke up with AC/DC at 2 a.m. and Stefan Borconi dancing in his gimme cap. Yeah, we're playing. Come on, dance with us. Dance with us.
Oh,
but you know what? I bet you know what? If they came down, they'd have a great time with Stefan.
Oh my God, I'm sure they would, but I just don't know if they're the right mindset to handle such.
Yeah, that's probably good. Yeah, you know what? That's a bad idea. Let's scratch that.
Yes, Steph he's a pisser, as they would say up in New England.
He has his own boardroom in North Texas, and he gets to do whatever he wants there. So, and somebody once said, well, he has a boardroom there. What about the people on the other rooms? Well, we make sure actually that's set in the contract. That's only sold to people who go to the con. So if you go to the con, you're on the 14th floor. You may be woken up at 3 a.m. with Stefan Porcarni singing along to Black Sabbath.
As long as it's only Stefan.
Yeah, but if people, well, I think this year Jeff Talanian joined him, so that's rough. I did not realize Jeff Talanian's heavy metal background until he told me. I guess I should have been surprised, because I can see that dude, dressed all heavy metal back in the 90s or whatever. But
yeah, dude, I could have seen him as a skinhead.
Well, he told us a story. Apparently, the only things he cared about in high school were fast cars, heavy metal, and Michael Moorcock. That's like his 3 things. And then I started thinking, like, yeah, I can actually see that now that I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I could have seen him stave diving, like, actually heavy metal thrash is what I could see. Stave diving, Anthrax.
And he's got that really thick accent. And he's like going on and on about Elric. Elric, man, Black Blade's awesome, man. Oh my God, that's so cool. Jamming to Black Sabbath. And so I was like, gosh, I can actually see that now. Damn.
No, that's good stuff, man.
It's amazing how heavy metal music in our hobby, because I'm not really a big heavy metal guy at all, but it's amazing how the connection in our hobby between heavy metal music and D&D. It's really, really interesting.
It is, because my gaming group when I was in high school and college they were huge into heavy metal, and I had some bands I liked. I liked Iron Maiden. I could get into a few others, but they were into stuff that was. It's like,
Yeah. Maybe it has to do with kind of the outlaw image of both of them, kind of the outcast outlaw, because back when I went to high school, heavy metal guys were kind of the long-haired, scary dudes. You didn't want to mess with them. So, and the D&D guys were kind of the nerdy guys that you just kind of stayed away from because they were weirdos. So I guess it's inevitable that a alliance would form between the two.
I guess, but my D&D group, there were 6 of us, 2 sets of brothers. Both sets of brothers had long hair. They were in heavy metal bands. Everybody played an instrument. Then there was me, who had just unkempt hair. It was too long, but not long. And then our friend Paul, who we called GQ, because he shopped out of GQ even our college days and
how funny.
Yeah, the late 80s, early 90s. So, and then my one friend Dave, he come to the house for like, I don't know, a couple of months. How that sometimes people drop out for a bit and they come back. When he came back, he cut his hair. My mother, who knew all my friends, she's like, he comes to the door and she's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "It's Christina, it's Dave." She's like, "Oh my God, you cut your hair." It was so beautiful.
Did he go corporate? Was that it, or he had
Yeah, he did. Yeah, listen, my old gaming group, I'm the only civil servant. Everybody else, we have a physical trainer who does inspections of hospitals worldwide. We have 2 that are management at Deloitte, one at the vice president at Bank of America, and one we lost to 9/11, but he was a manager at Aon in the tower. So I'm the one who went civil service. Everybody else went corporate.
Yeah, I think I might be the failure in my group. I'm not that you're the failure in your group, Eric. I'm just saying that.
I'm the oddball out.
I don't even know what I did, what my job is. I just do whatever. But some of the friends I game with, one of them is a very successful surgeon. He has been for many years, and actually his son's a neurosurgeon, so he's done all right. Actually, Dr. Joe, if you ever go to the con, Dr. Joe's there sometime. His son appeared. His son was there last year with his girlfriend, and they had a great time. But he was the reason we got to play D&D when we were kids, because he was straight-laced, straight-A student from Maryland who moved to Texas. And my mom always said, well, if you're doing it with Joe, I know it has to be wholesome. Because he was just he was just the most wholesome dude. So he saved us from having to worry about we were Satan worshiping in the back room or something. It was like, oh well, Joe's there. He was Catholic dude, went to private school, and just yes sir, yes ma'am. It was great. So yeah, most of the guys I game with have done really well. We had one guy he was a bank president. Actually, he's already retired now, which drives me crazy. He retired when he's 50. He made so much money. And he was one of the guys we game with. And another guy's a teacher, professor at a college. One guy, he's the guy that films operations at Parkland Hospital. Whenever they have an operation, he's the audiovisual director. So he's got a really important job there. So yeah, and then I do whatever I do. Sit on the internet, talk to you. So that's.
Oh, dude,
what can I say? We can't all be successful. So
they keep you out of trouble.
I married successful. See, that's the key.
Well, Rachel married into a civil servant pension, so now we're trying to find her part-time employment so I can spend more time with her. Isn't easy.
Ouch!
Yeah, because she has one of those occupations where you work to your Social Security or you're dead. Yeah. If you're gonna make a career choice in this world and you want to be a social worker, think twice. I mean, every social worker I've bumped into, it's a calling because of family or friends that they felt really drawn to. But there's no exit strategy.
If it just hit me though, I thought of something really interesting, and this has only happened in the last few years or so. Rachel goes to a lot of conventions with you. I noticed there was a lot of husband-wife duos at GaryCon, and there's it seems like there's much more that I've ever seen at game cons, because when I was a kid, game cons, it was the lone wolf guy. It was a dude, and you either came by yourself or you came with a bunch of buddies.
Right.
And there was very few girlfriend wife type things. And at Gary Con, at least, I saw a ton of wives, a ton of couples that are. I don't know if they're actually even gaming together, but they were sure going to the con together.
Oh God, yeah, and Rach, North Texas last year, I you know what? I don't think I ran anything at James Bond picked up my slots because I went up working the table. I think Rach played in like 3 or 4 games. I was like, I played nothing. My wife, and she's like, oh, I got my Swords of Wizardry complete book
Oh
with
boy.
the, she goes, yeah, with the with the biblical cover, the burning bush.
Ouch! Oh, that's a good one, man. You got to save that one. You should have just wasted that on this show. That's a good. The burning bush. I love it.
Yeah. Listen, that could be the new reference to it. Third print, we went biblical.
Yeah. Which, by the way, if you find one, it's out of print, so pick it up because we're not reprinting that ever again. So
beautiful times, man. Beautiful times.
We're reprinting the Swords of Wizardry rules. We're just not reprinting that cover anymore. Actually, the Airwaves cover will be out of print before you know it too. So, although I don't think our next rules printing will be till next year. I think it got pushed out. It was going to be this year. I think it's going to be next year. But yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting because I mean, heck, my wife got sucked into a game with Skeeter's wife last year, which I thought was ridiculous because she's made clear her disdain for D&D, and we played one time, and she said, "Okay, that's enough," and she wouldn't play. She wouldn't play with the grandkids. The grandkids beg her, "Mimi, come play with us." She's like, "No, I don't think so. Don't want to." So yeah, Skeeter's wife Jen got her to play, so that was kind of interesting, but yeah, there's a ton of wives that either share the hobby or don't mind being seen at game conventions. And honestly, I talk about this a lot, but one of the big game changers in this last generation was the Big Bang Theory. Just the fact that it made nerding. I mean, whether you hate it or like it or hate it, it made being a nerd kind of cool. And so a lot of people that normally would never be caught dead there. I know my wife gets asked all the time. It's so funny because she's an engineer, and where she's worked, where she works at now, people are very open about, just being nerds or being, saying they play D&D and stuff. And she mentions, stuff about me, and they just go nuts because she was telling one time, she told one person there, she's like, yeah, my husband does podcasts and stuff on Discord. She's like, whoa, does he know the Critical Role people? And my wife's like, who's Critical Role? I was like, yeah, that's way above my pay grade. I'm not Critical Role. She's like, I didn't know who they were, so I just said like, yeah, he does the same thing they do. I was like, no. That's something that I can't even aspire to. That's big time.
Well, wasn't there another TV show that was did the D&D sessions or Community?
Stranger Things made it cool too.
Well, yep.
Stranger Things first season had the kids playing D&D.
Yep.
And yeah, the one you mentioned also, Community, had a couple of D&D sets. So it's got more of the mainstream. And a lot of what's happened is I think a lot of these writers who played D&D as kids are now working in Hollywood, so they throw that in there. But yeah, it's I think that that kind of, not really coolness, I don't know what you call it, but that's led a lot of people to say, I think I'll go to a game convention. I wouldn't normally have gone there, but it's not that weird or crazy. It's just it's something different, but it's kind of, TV has made it kind of cool.
Yeah, no, certainly, and I'm happy for that. This is when D&D had its first popularity. Like people were playing it, but it was like like you said, like it was like the nerd generation wasn't necessarily. It was popular, but it wasn't cool. Now, it's becoming cool.
It was like, I think 84, 83, 84 when it was outselling Monopoly, which is crazy if you think about it. Yeah, that was when everybody was buying it, and I think you had a lot of people buying it that didn't really know what it was. They just knew it was popular and hot. Because I remember at that point, a lot of people were playing it that would play it once or twice and never play it again.
Right. But I mean, like back around that time, if we got a full group together, I could have 15 people in my basement. I mean, it was amazing. You didn't want to run a group that large necessarily, and if we played in the basement, which we did, we had a group that large. the side effect was that my cat at the time was going a little senile, and since we had an oil burner, there was some sand on the floor. So she thought it was a giant litter
Oh
pan.
boy. Yeah.
So
I
you
know how
come
that
down
works
there
out.
and it'd be like in the middle of the game, it's like, oh, who let one go? It's like, no. The cat has shit underneath their feet.
Oh, nice. That's always great.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
God, I don't know if I'd have come to your house to game if that would have been one of the features.
Yeah, that's why we played
I
in the
mean, my,
backyard in the summer.
my mom would bake us pizza, and apparently you would go there and your cat would crap on the floor. So.
Well, no. Well, listen, when we played upstairs in the dining room, my parents had to like replace the dining room chairs because one of the guys in our group was larger and would rock a lot when he got excited.
He was fat.
So
Okay.
the wooden chairs with just like the glue with and like twice during gaming sessions, like just one chair just kind of like split open and just kind of like slowly went down the floor.
Oh my God.
And that happened to my mother's cousin once when she visited. She had one of those bad chairs.
All right. So what did we miss? What else do we need to talk about? Oh, sorry, we got
Dude, I don't
10
know,
more
man.
minutes.
I think
10 more minutes. Let's cover what other subject we have. Bunnies and burrow. No, what's hot? Well, what's hot? What's not? What's in the you talk? Oh, I know what I was going to say.
What?
You were joking and say, hey, let's check out what's hot on InWorld. And so I went ahead. Okay, let me check InWorld, and I just noticed that there was a story that F. Wesley Schneider is D&D's new editor, and he worked at Paizo from like 2003 to 2017. He was one of the big movers and shakers in Pathfinder. And this is kind of a trend or pattern. Paizo has lost quite a few people to WotC in the last couple of years.
Well, he left in 2017, and now I'm just gonna talk out of my ass. This is just a rumor I heard at one of the conventions I was at, which happened to be back in 2017, that Paizo was having cash flow issues, and there was some movement going on because I guess they didn't know. Some people didn't know where Paizo was going, so he left at that time period. The time period is right for when he left. This is I guess before Starfinder launched and became a temporary cash cow.
Yeah, launched and crashed, but.
Oh, but they're putting out a beginner box, man. The best thing that Pathfinder ever put out was their beginner box. So now it's going to be a beginner box for Starfinder. So
yeah, well, good luck with that. Good luck with that, Paizo.
Time out. If they stuff it like they did the Pathfinder box and they price it similarly, I would say, listen, if you just want, pogs for instead of using miniatures at your game for science fiction game. Brave it.
But Eric, it's not a good game. I hate to say.
Oh, I know. Nobody
I know that likes it. Nobody I know likes the game.
Mike, I'm not saying you buy it for the game. I'm saying buy it for the accessory.
Oh yeah, because I found some Pathfinder beginning sets in half price books. I bought them for the minis because they were cheap enough.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Even at full price, it was worth it for that. Actually, the beginner box is the one product from Pathfinder that actually I was able to read and go, oh, you know what? I could actually run this. Holy shit! So
we have this talent. So I mean, we have a lot of people that have left Paizo and this is all tied into what's going to happen with second edition. And actually, I was awake one night at GearCon in the lobby, and Jason Bowman was holding court and explaining the difference between what Pathfinder and the new Pathfinder. And he said something really interesting, I thought, which was that okay, so let me try to say this exactly. I don't want to misquote him. But he said that basically one of the problems they were having with Pathfinder is there's so many options. And he was explaining how convoluted combat is and how, you have to check so many things and it just slows down to a crawl when combat should be the most exciting thing that happens at the table. And it should be boom, boom, boom. And so he said instead, he would watch games and it would just grind down and everybody had all these different options. Every step of combat, you had 15 different things you do. So what he said is they changed it to where you can do only 3 things. You do this, you can do this, this, or this. And that's all you can do during combat. And so that's going to save the game because it's going to make it a lot faster.
Okay.
And so I mean, and I don't know because we were there last year, not this year, but last year when they debuted Pathfinder 2.0 at GaryCon, and the reception was mixed to say the least. It was, you always have your your people that are just super fans that are going to hate it no matter what, and they did. They hated it. And then you had some people that say they liked it, and here we are, a year later. We don't really necessarily know a lot more than we knew then. So, what's your opinion? What do you think is going to happen with 2.0?
I think you're going to lose the. I think what's going to happen is that the 1.0 players aren't going to move on, a lot of them, and the 2.0 players are going to go, well, if we really wanted to play something like this, we would just play 5e.
And that's the complaint we heard from a lot of people last year at GaryCon, was that if I wanted to play 5e, I'd just play 5e. Because if what Jason Bowman said is true, they I don't want to say dumbed it down. They just made it simpler. That they took away a lot of the options that Pathfinder, people that play Pathfinder, they like all that fiddly stuff. They love having the 15 options to do this or that, or be able to customize their character. And so I don't know, like you said, I don't know if this is going to bring in new people that are scared of playing Pathfinder, because there's a lot of people that won't play Pathfinder because they know sitting down to create a character is going to take 2 hours, or or at least, right. I mean, that's exaggeration, but at least 30 minutes, to create your character. Maybe they feel it's going to bring in that player, but I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen this summer.
Yeah, I am. I'm interested in seeing it. I'm not going to be part of it. Listen, when Pathfinder 1 released, I subscribed to the Paizo release because it was quality stuff, and I was never using any of it, but it was kind of fun to read, especially the setting material and the adventure paths. But I don't run adventure paths because that's on Rails. But they're good. They were fun to read to see where the story was going. But then I realized if I wanted to read like that, I should just buy a book.
Yeah, Adventure Pass. I mean, that was a genius idea for them, because that's the kind of thing you want to do, and I think they have some really good Adventure Paths. But yeah, I mean, they've done how many of those now? They're up to 100 and something. So I mean, that is getting old. That is kind of getting old now. And you're right. It is an adventure kind of on the rails. You're not going to be able to do a lot of sandboxy stuff. Although the one sandbox one they had, which I think was Kingmaker, is probably the most popular one they ever did, and that's the most sandboxy of all the adventure paths, if I remember correctly.
Right. So,
but yeah, I'm really interested. I'm just very interested in seeing, because this is one of those things I just don't know. Usually, I mean, I hate to say that I'm a prognosticator, but I've been right on some stuff, right? I throw some stuff out there. Dude. But this is one I'm honestly I don't know. It could go either way. It could be an absolute flop. It could be an absolute smash hit. It could be somewhere in between. I just have no feel for this.
Here's the thing: they need a smash hit because Starfinder wasn't it, and they lost enough money on the Starfinder books that were falling apart that they need something out of the box that's going to be a huge hit. And this reboot, we'll see what happens. And the other problem with remember, it's all OGL, so it doesn't mean that Pathfinder 1 ever goes away. So they're going to have their own very popular edition as their own competition.
Oh, sure. And you're going to see at conventions, this game, is it Pathfinder 1 or Pathfinder 2? And you're going to have people that are not going to want to play Pathfinder 2. Nope, I'm playing in the Pathfinder 1 game, and vice versa. You're going to have some people say, well, I want to try the new stuff. But yeah, I think that's definitely something to look at. Is that there were, and then you and I have lived long enough to see all the schisms. We saw the 1E, 2E schism.
Yep.
We saw the 1E, 2E/3E schism. Then there was the 4E schism. Which really was a schism.
Here's the thing with 4E. Do you ever see 4E being offered at a convention?
I have never seen a 4E game at a convention ever. I mean, we were talking about that during GaryCon. I have never once seen it. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. It just means that it was not that popular because nobody wants to run it at a con.
Right.
They'd rather run other editions at a con.
And that's the reason why 5e was the success that it was, because whereas 4e stepped away from a popular game to get away from the OGL, because that was the reason why they stepped away from it, and changed it enough that the game system license or whatever. 4E was never embraced like 3rd edition had, and then when 5E came out, everybody jumped ship. The vast majority jumped ship. There's still a lot of 4E players out there, people that enjoy the game. God bless them, but it's not a traditional Dungeons and Dragons game as people were used to, and I think that's why that change was so huge and why 5e was so popular.
We need to get John Peterson to do a investigative study on what they were thinking with 4E, because that'd be the guy to get in there and do it. Because I think it was going to be their World of Warcraft. Try to get to the World of Warcraft people, because it was very much a war game slash.
Well,
It's just
here's
such
the
an
deal.
oddball. It was such an odd duck. It was just so weird.
They thought that they were going to make their money on microtransactions on the virtual tabletop that never came to be, which I got to do. I should go back and we should actually do an episode on that, do a little research. Because remember, that was the programmer that I think killed his spouse. And that's why that.
Yeah, that was because I remember I was at the Gen Con where they announced 4E, and I think it was 2008 or 9. I can't remember. And they were going to have this huge thing. It was going to be this huge online thing that never happened. That was like the whole thing that they talked about. The online aspect.
I think they had like a live beta where you could play with the interface a bit. It never really worked that great, but they wanted you to buy minis and stuff, miniatures, virtual miniatures. And yeah, it never happened because the software issue was, the guy doing the software went to jail for killing his spouse.
Oh, I was right. It was 2000. It was 2008, and that was the year I was at Gen Con. Yeah, that's when they announced.
All right, yeah. So that might be a fun episode. Talk some shit.
Yeah, we need to get John Peterson out here to talk about, because I'm just kidding. John Peterson's awesome. He has more important things to do than talk about the history of 4E.
4E. He wouldn't touch 4E with your player's handbook.
By the way, John Peterson's special guest at NTRPGCon this year. Hello.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, well, he was coming. Well, we did the cheap thing. He was coming anyway, so guess who gets to be made special guest? Boom.
Oh, well, you're coming anyway. Here, we'll feed you. There you go.
Here you go, John Peterson. You're one of the most important people in the hobby. You're coming to our con. You're a special guest now. Yay!
Awesome. Well, I think we've hit the post, man. I think it's time for us to call it a night.
Yeah, we could do this like for hours, which is so awesome. That's why
which is damn scary. And I mean, if we did that, we have to I'd have to edit the episodes down to hour-long sessions. But folks, we're up for suggestions. We're working with what was it? Talking Crit. I think we're going to go along with Talking Crit.
I love it. Thank you, Carl. That's awesome.
Yes, so we really do appreciate that. But that being said, if you have features that you want to talk about, if you have stuff that you want us to talk about, you can leave a voicemail using the Anchor app, or you can send us an email. Easiest way right now will be tankarstavern.com, and just put Talking Crit into the subject and tell us something you might want us to talk shit about.
We're fairly unfiltered, so if you give us a subject, we'll give your honest opinion on it, and we could probably riff on pretty much almost anything in gaming for at least 10-15 minutes. So
yeah, we're skilled like that. We're professionals. Don't try to.
No, we're just old, so we know a lot of stuff.
That too. Mike, this is good, man. I'm glad we did this.
All right, man. Yeah, it's awesome. I gotta go eat dinner, though. This is dinner time, man.
It is. Same here. I got to pick up Rich on the train shortly. But folks, we'll do this on a weekly, right? We're doing this.
Yeah. It may not always be the same time, but we'll figure out a good time for both of us.
Time is variable, but probably we can even do this at conventions, because we pretty much do most of the conventions together.
The Discord is too successful. We looked at every single night is taken up with a talk show. This is ridiculous. So shut this Discord down. It's crazy.
And if you guys really like this, if you guys and gals really enjoy what we're doing, we'll split this off and make it its own weekly show with its own feed and all that stuff. So,
and I'll do it. I'll do it pantless.
I'm already doing it pantless, man. So
you're so far ahead of the curve, gosh.
Dude, that's why it's a podcast and not a YouTube.
All right, thanks, Erik, and thanks to everybody listening. We will be back whenever we were back.
Yep, folks. As always, God bless, and later.